So I've been playing drums for around about 22 years, and I've decided to figure out in an extremely rough fashion how many times I've struck any drum during that time. So we're going to have a look at the math. Now, according to a question that I posted on the Answers site, I asked how many times could you hit a snare drum in your typical 3-minute 120 beats per minute song, and I got an answer. It was some kindly posted an answer saying it would be approximately 180 times. Now, making that assumption, it was a pop song with a backbeat, so that covers the snare, right? So anyway, I started thinking about the snare and then the kick and all the other parts that are associated with it. And the kick or the bass drum is varied greatly in the equation. So let's assume that you could do 3 beats per bar, or maybe 2.5 or something like that on average. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's anywhere between 240 and 300 times in a single 3-minute pop song. So to give it a definitive number, I'll say 270. Okay, I love the kick drum, so that's probably pretty typical. So keep me up? Good. So for 3 minutes we've got 180 snare hits, around 270 kick drum hits. So to make it simple, I'm going to use a 4/4 beat and come up with a figure of around 360 hits for the hi-hats, okay? Since I occasionally like to do some tricky stuff and fills and all that sort of stuff, we'll bump the number up, because there's some 8th notes and some 16th notes, so we'll say around about 500 hits. Okay, so 180 snare, 270 kick, 500 hat hits. We're looking around about 950 in a typical song. Not quite done yet. Let's add some cymbals for good measure, say 24, okay? So we give a couple of fills, like that. We'll get a total of, say, 16 times 3 plus 3 extra cymbals. So we're roughly looking at around about 1,025 times in your typical 3-minute 120 BPM song. Okay, so let's assume we're going with 1,025 hits for a single song. On average, we used to rehearse once a week, play once every 2 weeks, so some more than others, and we'd have to come up for a number of rehearsal times we've had and how many times we've played. Talking about gigs, on average we'd probably play for, say, 60 minutes. Basing this off some gigs being small, 30 minutes, others being longer, say 2 hours. In that time you could possibly fit in around about 20 songs based on that 3-minute margin, and as long as you didn't do them back to back with any banter or mucking around, you could have probably fit maybe 20 songs. Since we did like to talk and did like to sort of muck around and do things like that, it was probably more typical to get maybe 14, 15 songs all up. So let's stick with 14. So 14 songs, 1,025 hits. Comes up with a total of 14,350. Now this is going to add up. 1 gig equals 14,350. And we do 2 gigs a month, that equals 28,700 hits, and that was in my music heyday. Just for 1 gig or 2 gigs in a month and rehearsals and everything else. Now, thinking about how much I've played and what years I've been active. 1986, very little rehearsals, no live work. Since I was in high school, I'd say maybe 2 songs per week. Over 40 weeks, that means I hit the drums 82,000 times in that year. 87, getting more active, started rehearsals with my brother. We'll call it 6 songs per week for a duration of the school term, around 40 weeks. So then we're talking 246,000 hits in a single year. 1988, things started really taking off. Joined my first outside of school band. Second half of the year, rehearsed for around 4 hours a week, around 40 songs per rehearsals, 41,000 hits per rehearsal. So for example, over the 6 months, we'd probably do around about 820,000 hits in that 6-month period. Now, I know it seems ridiculous, but these figures are actually legit. So from 1989 to 1993 was probably the biggest amount of gigging and rehearsing that I ever did. We'd go do a weekly rehearsal without fail and gigs at least once a month for the whole time, just to even it out. So bands I played with included Running Scared, Zigzag,
and lots of crazy stories, but maybe we'll save that for another vlog. So real quick, 5 years, 1,025 per songs, 20 songs per week as an estimate. We're talking a staggering 5,330,000 hits. That's right, over 5 million hits. If only I could get that many hits on my YouTube account. Anyway, 93 to 99. Started getting a little bit slower. Got into the whole acting thing. So we'll guesstimate there was this massive decline, and to average it out was the equivalent of, say, 1 song per week for the entire year, which wouldn't be too inaccurate. So 7 years, 52 songs per year, 364 songs played, times 1,025 equals about 373,000 hits. For the past 10 years, from 99 up to about now, I've played far less. I've only played occasionally, so I'm going to cut it back quite a bit. So we'll say 1 song per month, equivalent of 1,025 hits, 12 months times 10 years, a mere 123,000 hits. So let's add it up. 1986, 82,000, 87, 246,000, 88, 820,000. From 89 to 93, 5,333,000 hits. 93 to 99, 373, and 99 to 2008, 123,000. So here we go. The most pointless use of maths ever. I have hit drums a total of 6,977,000 times, or 77,100 times. Now I'm sure it's probably massively more than that. It might be a little bit less, who knows, but just using that estimate alone, which is possibly a fairly conservative one, 6.9 million times over. I'd say it's a hell of a lot of hits. So anyway, there you go. Useless maths. What can I say? I hope you enjoyed it. I know my wrist did.